Welcome back to the channel. Key infrastructure for the root network gets a US patent, alpha updates galore, including details on breeding, new community contests and content, plus a whole bunch more. This is Into the Futureverse, and today is Wednesday, the 31st of August of 2022. Now give that like button a big bunnies up, and let's get into it. So it's been a crazy few days since my last video. Aaron's been very active in the Discord and has dropped an awful lot of alpha, answering a lot of the community questions. He had this to say about fluff breeding. Breeding has taken a while because we had to design two things to allow for scaling more users. The problem you have when trying to scale mass market is how do you make it simple and provide predictable, easy pricing for them to understand, while also making sure Genesis asset holders have the ability to create value from breeding. Imagine a scenario where we launch a campaign with a celebrity who has 100 million followers, and we can get 100,000 users waiting to join, but there are only 9,000 flufflets available. Well, most of those users will not join, and that's bad. Users at a lower price point creates more value often than less users at a higher price point in internet scale businesses. In order to make sure that when lots of users join, there is enough supply for them at a predictable price, and also we don't have too many assets minted doing nothing, we designed a new protocol that allows elastic and value flow to breeders who opt into the system. So this kind of sounds a little bit like Uber and their surge pricing, where we might only be able to breed our fluffs and create flufflets dynamically as the demand increases. I think that's a pretty clever concept, especially if this scales out to thousands or hundreds of thousands of users. So the value outcome is not to make flufflets super expensive or rare, although some of them definitely will be, but it's to drive lots and lots of purchases that stream value back to the holders of those assets. So the seed assets, fluffs and eggs, are rare, valuable things along with some special flufflets. Matching fluffs helps to determine the outcome of the flufflets, but it's not absolute, just like in real genetics. Also, several users have been asking if there'll be a Tinder style app for matching fluffs, and community member Roko Piri did this mock-up of the Tinder app dubbed Flinder. I'm not sure how a fluff would go mating with a seeker, but it sure would make for an interesting crossbreed. Aaron also dropped another character type that's probably going to exist in the Third Kingdom. Many users have been asking for dragons, no doubt Game of Thrones fans. But Aaron, he's more of a dinosaur guy, and has hinted that dinosaurs might come from eggs as well. Now we already know that other NFT ecosystems such as the Bored Ape Yacht Club will be able to use eggs to get some world-class 3D renders of their apes running around in FLUF World environments, and potentially any environment. It's not financial advice, but it seems eggs are rather slept on. A key piece of technology for the root network has had its US patent approved. Now this tech is quite significant, and it could well get adoption outside of blockchain, and maybe even make it easier for Web 2 entities to connect into Web 3 environments. And the patent surrounds some new technology that the team has dubbed donuts. So here's the actual patent, and what's really crazy about it is that this was applied for in May of 2019, over 2 years ago, which goes to show you how forward-thinking the big brains that make up part of the Centrality ecosystem have been. Now I believe a lot of this tech has come out of the SensNet team, which is why the SensNet community is being offered the chance to swap some of their Sens tokens for mycelium when it arrives, as a way of rewarding that community. As you can see from the document, it's very technical in nature, and some of the finer details are still lost on me, but I'll do my best to make this as understandable as possible. And if you want to take me to task on anything that I say, please drop it in the comments below. Again, this is oversimplified to try and make this as digestible as possible. So what TF is a donut? Well, it's a decentralized macaroon. What TF is a macaroon? Well, it's an alternative to the SSO model. What TF is SSO? Well, it's a better version of a cookie. But what TF is a cookie? Allow me to explain. So in this example, Aaron McDonald is grinding away on Discord and Twitter as he normally does, dropping alpha left and right, and then he realizes it's time for another coffee. So on his coffee break, he jumps onto his favorite goblin gossip site, goblinhub.com. Now as you well know, the really juicy content on goblinhub.com is behind a paywall, and you need to have an account. So Aaron logs in with his username and password. The Goblin Hub web server then issues him a session ID in the form of a cookie and sends it back to him. That cookie gets stored in his browser, and when it's time for him to log in again, his web browser simply sends the session ID in the form of a cookie back to the web server and allows Aaron to log in, but this time without having to put in a username and password. At the time, cookies were pretty awesome tech, and it made Web 1 a little less shit. However, the problem is if somebody gets a hold of your cookie, they can now log into whatever services the cookie is for, as you. So that's far from ideal. So as we moved into Web 2, Centralized services such as Google and Facebook created a single sign-on method where you can sign into a bunch of different services using your Google or Facebook accounts. Now, this is still very common today, and most of us use this on a daily basis. However, all of our data is being farmed and sold, and we get nothing in return other than constant spam and targeted advertising. And as you can see, Aaron's not too happy about this. The other issue with this is, if you forget your Google account or your Google account gets compromised or Google itself goes down, you can no longer log into all of your services. And this is one of the pitfalls of centralization. So Google themselves created the next generation of cookies called macaroons. Now, these security tokens are a lot more advanced, and rather than just capturing your session ID to log back in again more easily, the token itself actually holds data, and it holds data in a hierarchical fashion. So a macaroon is basically several cookies nested together. This allows a lot more granular access and only gives permissions where needed rather than full access. However, the issue is still the centralized entities involved, in this case Google. And this is where the patent of donuts is significant. Donuts use the same technology as macaroons, except they can be issued and verified by any third party. And the granular nature of the tokens allows for a lot more specific and tailored use cases and access. For instance, in Aaron's donut here, we can see a whole subset of different information. And the Burrows app, for instance, might only be interested in what burrow Aaron has, what fluff he holds, and what bored ape he's imported into the FLUF World environment by using an egg. It doesn't need to know about his residency or if he's sacrificed a seeker, for instance. However, a DeFi application that has strict KYC requirements, know your client, might be more interested in where Aaron lives and his residency status. And using advanced cryptography, it can achieve that access without fully divulging the information. The Donuts technology is going to open a whole slew of new use cases that can't be achieved anywhere else, and is going to form a key foundational building block and point of difference for the root network. So its significance cannot be overstated. Donuts will also provide a more seamless user experience where particular apps will be able to dive into a user's metadata and provide the right context for them. It also has other safeguards to protect users in having self-custody of their own assets. I believe it can even help in the situation if you've lost your seed phrase. And as most of us know, self-custody is a real issue, and more FLUF World and general NFT holders are being targeted every day, so you can never be too careful. The big part of making Web3 safer and more user-friendly for mass market. It allows us to provide similar experiences to Web2, but without compromising on decentralization. The new protocol works entirely peer-to-peer, but gets superpowers when tethered to on-chain actions, so you can start to do interesting things in apps that don't consume network resources. This is going to unlock so many new use cases and make for deep integration between a user, their assets, their on-chain actions, and the dApps that they interact with, which is the entire essence of an open metaverse. There's also been several other nuggets of alpha that Aaron has dropped regarding the technical ins and outs of the root network, including the current hot topic of creator royalties. Royalties are baked into the cake in the root network and can't be as easily overcome as they are on an Ethereum-based network, as we're now seeing a race to the bottom on NFT marketplaces, allowing users to pick and choose if they want to honor creator royalties. This flies in the face of the whole premise of Web3 and actually breaks the economy. And again, this will be a race to the bottom. This will be another unique selling point for the root network, allowing Web3 creators to monetize their work more readily. Keep in mind that the value of the root network will not be the NFTs themselves, although I'm sure they'll do well. It's the network effects of everything that runs on top of the root network, which is going to be far more than simply FLUF World. The root network has a really interesting architecture, which allows for both horizontal scaling for world chains, as well as compatibility for core features across world chains. What this means in simple terms is, as the number of users on board into a particular app, it may be better served having that app on its own parachain, which increases the speed and reduces the cost of interacting with it. Pretty cool. Now, Aaron has confirmed that there's at least 4 patents that the Centrality team are working on, including one for the altered state machine, which will recognize ASM as the rightful place for the tokenization of artificial intelligence. It sounds like that patent process is going well and has also been a long time in the making. Before I continue, if you are new to the channel, hi, welcome. I'm Gerry, host of Into the Futureverse, where I cover alpha and updates on all things FLUF World and the Futureverse ecosystem. And if you enjoy this content, consider supporting the channel by smashing that like button, hitting subscribe, and hitting the notifications bell so you get all my videos in a timely fashion. Next up, we have this bit of news released from Brooke Howard-Smith, with the creation of a new community-led marketing council, which is being spearheaded by large FLUF World holder Dougal Swift. Now, if you want to learn more about Dougal Swift, check out this recent Real Talk podcast that he did with Monarchy. Here's some of the highlights. Let's give it a watch. watch.
Corporate exec, marketer, NFT investor, Bitcoin evangelist, and early investor. You've won awards, marketing awards, DJ before you had kids, and you're passionate about decentralization.
Really passionate about
and the role that that can play in society. When did you get into crypto?
2017.
When did you buy your first NFT?
October last year.
What was it?
Fluff.
Do people say to you, what the fuck is a fluff?
Yeah, you get funny looks when you tell people or they find out that you invest in digital rabbits on the internet. Brooker told me about NFL and what they were doing with fluffs, and he actually rang me on the morning of the mint, and I was playing with my kids, so I didn't answer the phone, so I missed the fluff mint. NFTs didn't really fit my investment thesis of having scarcity. Like, I like to invest in things that have got genuine finite supply, so land and Bitcoin. NFTs, there's always another range of NFTs that come out, but as I did a bit of research on FLUF World, I think, hey, this is really cool. I like what they're doing. I like the tokenomics. They're delivering value back to the core asset holders. I really want to get into this, but I just couldn't find one that I like. And after 6 weeks of looking literally every single day, I found this FLUF, and ironically, it looked a bit like my wife. It was a darkness fur and had a tennis visor on, and she had a similar tennis visor at the time. And I rang Brooke and I said, hey, look, what do you think? So I grabbed this female fluff, darkness fluff with the tennis visor, and then one became two, became a lot.
Did you seek approval from your wife when you bought that?
Oh, absolutely. She's right into this. I showed her and I said, what do you think? And she was like, yeah, I love that. Let's get that one. Yeah, she's really, really supportive, and it's been a successful investment strategy for us. So she's really supportive of it. I remember one night last year, it was like 1 a.m. and I'd been on the Discord and I'd been reading about robo thingies, and I just thought they were the coolest execution. I hadn't got one, so we were having to write. Said to Faye, like 1 a.m. we're just sitting up in bed on our phones. What do you reckon? She goes, oh yeah, get it. So I grabbed this robo thing. It felt fantastic for doing it.
That's pretty cool. So day job.
I've got a fantastic day job. So I work for the AA, which anyone overseas is like New Zealand's motoring club. We provide roadside assistance and a whole lot of other products and services to a good chunk of New Zealand's population, 1.7, nearly 1.8 million members. So about 55% of our fully licensed driver population in this country. And I didn't expect to stay in the job for 18 years. I came from Air New Zealand, where I'd run AirPoints, which is a really successful frequent flyer program. And I remember when I joined AA and we did some qual research, because people were saying to me, why are you going to go and join that old boys club? And I thought, what a wonderful opportunity to get in there and develop that brand to connect with the new generation of Kiwis.
It's a membership-based organisation.
Yes,
membership owned.
AA is owned by its members, and that's, I think, what makes the organisation so special. So when you work at an organisation like that, the ethos is not maximise profit for shareholders. The ethos is how can we deliver maximum value to our member customers, and that's a really, really cool ethos to work with, of delivering value back to the people who use your service.
So I know you've gone all in on the Fluff ecosystem.
Look, first up, and I don't want anything in this interview to be taken as financial advice, but you want to maintain a diversified investment portfolio, right? Yeah. So I've got a lot of NFTs, I've got a lot of funds, but it's still a relatively small chunk of my overall investment portfolio.
That's a good qualifier.
I've got a lot of faith in what NFL, non-fungible labs, and now Futureverse are building. Ironically, when Brooke set up NFL, he was telling me what he was doing, and he told me it was with Aaron McDonald. And I'd met Aaron previously. Aaron had come to AA for a meeting and had been sitting in my office when Bitcoin first passed $10,000 at the end of 2017. So I knew a bit about Aaron, and I'd always been really impressed by his thinking. I knew he'd built this big network of companies to deliver the metaverse experience through that crypto bear market of 2018, 2019, following their very successful ICO for Centrality. The more I dived in, I really liked the roadmap and what these guys were trying to develop. It's like an open metaverse with all the parts that you need, but really, really focused on onboarding mass market through ease of adoption. And it's like investing in the internet in 1995. So I thought, well, wow, what a great opportunity to get into something that early with some founders that I've got a lot of faith in. I've read a lot about it and I've got a lot of faith in it. My investment thesis is I want to maintain a big portfolio of income producing NFTs that I can use and create a family trust. Yeah, and that family trust will provide, tertiary education, not just for my kids, but for a whole lot of kids. Yeah. My wife's one of 11 children. There's a lot of cousins and children in the broader family who don't necessarily have the same access to things my kids will have. So if I can help more kids get into tertiary education, things like that, through a big stable of NFT investments, and that's going to be a really cool outcome.
Like, how important do you think community is for Web3?
Community is Web3. I think what excites me so much about Web3 is that we're going to replace these big tech companies that control Web2 with a fully decentralized, community-owned replacement, and that's wonderful. Well, diversity is, I think, one of the real strengths of the Fluff World ecosystem. It doesn't have the crypto bro culture that a lot of other sections of crypto sphere have got. I think non-fungible labs, to their credit, have really focused from the get-go on building a very inclusive space where everyone feels comfortable. And I know a really diverse range of people through that ecosystem who represent all sort of walks of life, which is pretty cool.
What do you think the peeps watching this would want to know about you?
I think they're probably more interested in what I can share from my learnings and getting into this ecosystem, right? So I know there's a lot of people who are interested in getting into Web3, thoughts on where it's going. How do they invest in NFTs? Should they invest in NFTs? Should they invest in Bitcoin? How can they understand that ecosystem better? Where do you start? How can you learn from people who've done it? All those kinds of things. I get a lot of people ringing me up about this stuff.
Do you take the calls?
Yeah.
Is that consistent with the industry, that people are very generous?
I think it's definitely consistent with the Fluff World ecosystem. I do follow a lot of crypto Twitter. There's a distinct difference between how the Fluff World community behaves and maybe some of the other projects out there. And obviously a lot of them are based in the US or other markets which have maybe got a stronger capitalist culture and focus. You know, one of the great things about Fluff World is there's some concentration of ownership, obviously, in New Zealand, or being a hometown. And so there's a lot of people you know, not just through Discord, but you know, maybe socially, your friends of friends. We're a small country, and it keeps you honest and keeps the values high, and I think that's really good. So I think music and transforming that industry offers a lot of opportunity, and then that then leads to pushing the ability of the community to create their own art, music, visual, etc., and leverage Web3 for that. There's so much potential. These things will accelerate at a phenomenal speed over the next 5 years. I'd rather participate in a really healthy, strong community where people are engaged. You know, I look at a lot of the social problems we have, not just in New Zealand at the moment, but around the world. You know, we've got increasing crime rates. We've got a bit of a sense of economic despair at the moment with the economy. And, you know, a lot of that stuff comes from a lack of engagement in the community, right? And building community around things is really, really important to make people feel a valued member of society. And I think as the wealth gap has increased, as the economy has started to struggle, as people have felt the stress of COVID over the last few years, we've clearly seen things change for the worse. So we need to find a way of engaging people to have a healthy, strong society where everyone can contribute and is valued.
Which part of the ecosystem should we be looking at hard right now?
For Fluff World, look, Fluff is the apex asset of that ecosystem. 10,000 Fluffs. There's only 450, 460 Fluffs listed right now. The floor price is the lowest it's been for a long time. You know, you just grow that community by 400 people. That would add so much vitality back to it at the moment. Some of the holders are getting a little bit antsy at the moment because of the falling floor price. But I still think that collection has been positioned as the apex of its ecosystem by NFL and has clearly got so much commitment to its future. So I've got so much faith in it.
If you want to share any of your marketing thoughts with Dougal, send him a direct message on Twitter. I think this is a great concept, and there's been a lot of discussion around marketing in general in the Discord. This is a good chance for the community to get directly involved and help spread the word of Fluff World and the Futureverse. Many of our community members have been hard at work learning how to use Unreal Engine 5 to create some awesome 3D animations. Durs Boris dropped this effort, which I've added some cinematic sound to help bring it further to life. Now, he only started learning how to do this about 2 weeks ago, which goes to show you the power of creative tech and how the next boom of the internet will be Web3 creation. Again, it's been awesome to see community members working together to upskill themselves. Another community member, Root Drip, dropped a link in the Discord to a helpful tutorial he created on how to swap your fluff for the fluff that's been provided in the Leg Day 3D model competition.
A couple of people have asked for some help on retargeting their individual fluff into the Leg Day workshop animation. So the first thing we're going to need to do is bring in your own fluff. My fluff is 829, and you can go into that directory, do an import, bring in the FBX file for your fluff. And NFL did some great videos already on how to import your fluff into a Unreal Engine 5 scene. So take a look at the blog that they did when they pushed out the Leg Day FBXs, and you can see exactly how to bring that in. So you'll end up with your fluff, and if you click on the skeletal mesh, you'll see all of the materials that are out there. You'll be able to look at the animations your fluff can do, but you'll find that none of the animations that your fluff currently has are the animations that we need for the scene. So we're going to have to bring in the animations.
I can't wait to see what other creative efforts people come up with. Another nugget of alpha is the 5 pillars that Centrality are targeting. We see 5 channels: gaming, music, mass market media, consumer goods, and sports. Each one we have a global leader as a partner to help get out into wider population. And we can expect some good marketing partnerships soon, including celebrity collaborations. I'm sure the party packs finally dropping is going to form a part of this. We can expect some collaborations with wearables, which immediately makes me think of drug receipts and Brandverse, and some new Snoop Dogg content for Burrows and Buzzies. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and maybe consider watching one of my other videos. Bunnies up!